Day 70. Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Media outlets are currently obsessing over a suspicious Bitcoin ransom note. But 5 weeks ago, the FBI quietly knocked on neighbors' doors with a single chilling question. Did your internet go down on the night of January 31st? This changes everything we thought we knew about this investigation. We are no longer looking at a standard home invasion. We are looking at a localized blackout. The question driving this entire case is simple but terrifying. Why does kidnapping an 84-year-old woman with severe mobility issues require military-grade signal jamming? The tactics absolutely do not match the target. Nancy is the mother of television host Savannah Guthrie. The immense public profile of her daughter turned this disappearance into a national spectacle overnight. Cameras surround the neighborhood. Reporters speculate endlessly about the alleged ransom demands, but the real investigation is happening in the shadows. The authorities are keeping the most disturbing details sealed. They are desperately hiding the true scope of this operation. Nancy uses a pacemaker. She moves with significant difficulty. She poses zero physical threat to an attacker. Yet whoever took her executed a plan with devastating precision. They did not just break into a house. They isolated it from the modern world. They built a digital wall around her before they ever touched the door. This level of sophistication points away from a random crime of opportunity. It points toward a highly coordinated extraction. We are going to break down exactly how this happened. Hit subscribe right now. This is a rapidly evolving case. Tomorrow could bring the breakthrough this investigation needs. We will be the first to analyze the data the second it drops. You are watching Evidence with John. Let us establish the exact timeline of events. We need to look at the baseline facts before the media circus took over. January 31st, 9:48 p.m. Tommaso Cioni drops his mother-in-law Nancy off at her residence after a family dinner. He watches her go inside. He sees the garage door close completely. That is the final confirmed sighting of Nancy Guthrie. The neighborhood is quiet. The security systems are armed. Nothing appears out of the ordinary. Less than 15 hours later, the reality shatters. February 1st, 12:15 p.m. Local police arrive at the house to perform a routine wellness check. They walk up the driveway. They approach the front porch. They immediately spot fresh blood on the ground. Forensic teams secure the scene. They run the biological samples. The results confirm a 100% DNA match to Nancy Guthrie. The initial police theory forms instantly based on the visual evidence. A violent struggle occurred right outside the home. A chaotic abduction happened on the doorstep. Blood indicates a physical altercation. It indicates panic and resistance usually forces an attacker to make mistakes. A typical home invader panics when things turn violent. They grab the victim and flee the area in a frenzy. The local police braced themselves before entering the home. They expected to find a trashed interior. They anticipated overturned furniture. They looked for shattered glass and obvious signs of a forced entry. They assumed the chaos from the porch spilled into the hallway, but the crime scene investigators walked into a massive contradiction. The violence stopped completely at the threshold. The blood on the concrete porch told a story of brutal trauma. The space inside the front door told a completely different story. The silence inside that house is louder than the evidence outside. The local police step past the blood on the concrete and enter the home expecting a battlefield. They find absolute perfection instead. The living room is completely undisturbed. The furniture remains in its exact proper place. There is no shattered glass on the floor. There are no scuff marks on the hardwood. A violent struggle leaves a signature. A chaotic home invasion leaves a trail of destruction. This house holds no such signature. The interior environment contradicts the violence on the porch entirely. Investigators sweep the primary living areas. They check the bedrooms and the hallways. They find the back door wide open. The breeze is blowing through the house, but the anomaly deepens when they look at the kitchen counter. Nancy left her purse resting right there. Her mobile phone sits plugged into the wall charger. The wallet contains cash and credit cards. A desperate criminal looking for a quick score takes the cash. A disorganized intruder grabs the obvious valuables. Whoever entered this house ignored the money completely. They ignored the electronics. They bypassed every single item of financial value. They had one highly specific target. They only wanted an 84-year-old woman. This detail breaks every standard profile of a home invasion. Robberies are motivated by financial gain. Kidnappings of this nature usually involve wealthy targets directly. But Nancy possesses no massive personal fortune sitting in a safe. Taking her requires immense effort. It carries an astronomical risk. The intruders left the physical cash behind. They left the mobile device behind. They knew exactly what they came for. The open back door suggests an exit route. It suggests a methodical departure rather than a panicked escape. The clean house points to overwhelming control. It points to an attacker who dictated every second of the encounter. An 84-year-old woman cannot fight back effectively against a prepared intruder. But the lack of any indoor disturbance implies she never even had the chance to try. The silence of the room speaks to a swift and calculated extraction. Law enforcement officers document the untouched purse. They photograph the charging phone. Every photograph reinforces a terrifying reality. This is not a burglary gone wrong. This is a surgical strike. The perpetrators did not stumble into this residence by accident. They executed a premeditated plan. They walked past the valuables because those items were irrelevant to the mission. The mission was the abduction of a prominent media figure's mother. The contrast between the bloody porch and the pristine kitchen is paralyzing. It forces the detectives to discard their initial theories. They must look past the obvious signs of a struggle outside. They must focus on the terrifying precision inside. The immaculate interior is the first layer of a very dark mystery. It proves the attackers possessed extreme discipline. They did not panic. They did not rush. They controlled the environment completely. This level of discipline is rare in standard criminal activity. It belongs to professionals. It belongs to individuals who plan for every contingency. The local police realize they are out of their depth. The missing phone and purse are not just clues. They are a statement. The attackers are saying they do not care about small change. They are playing a much larger game, and they are playing it flawlessly. The lack of forced entry presents a massive logical hurdle. The locks on the front door are intact. The windows show no signs of tampering. The glass remains perfectly solid. Attackers usually smash glass to reach deadbolts. They use brute force to splinter door frames. This attacker bypassed the heavy security measures effortlessly. They either possessed a key or they picked a high security lock in total darkness. Picking a modern residential lock requires specialized tools. It requires a steady hand and significant time. Doing it on a front porch while avoiding detection implies extreme confidence. It implies the attacker knew the patrol routes of the local law enforcement. They knew exactly how much time they had before a neighbor looked out a window. The open back door is the only anomaly in the physical structure. Detectives analyze the hinges. They analyze the latch mechanism. They find no scratch marks from a pry bar. The door was open from the inside. This forces a chilling deduction. The masked man entered through the front. He moved silently through the hallways. He unlocked the back door to create an escape route before initiating the extraction. This is a tactical maneuver designed to ensure a clean exit. It prevents the attacker from being cornered if the police arrive unexpectedly. Every action demonstrates a chilling level of foresight. The interior layout of the house becomes a map of the attacker's psychology. They moved with absolute purpose. They did not wander into the guest rooms. They did not search the closets for hidden safes. They walked a straight line to the primary target. The untouched purse sits as a monument to their discipline. A stack of $20 bills is visible inside the open wallet. A gold watch rests next to the charging station. The street value of those items is significant, but the attacker treated them like worthless plastic. They maintained tunnel vision on the primary objective. The local police department attempts to build a psychological profile based on this extreme restraint. The profile scares them. It describes an individual devoid of impulse. It describes a machine executing a flowchart. The forensic teams dust for fingerprints. They find nothing useful. The surfaces are clean. The doorknobs yield no stray prints. The intruders wore gloves. They wore them long before they approached the property. Every step inside the house was calculated. The layout was likely studied beforehand. They knew exactly where the target would be. They knew the fastest way in and out. The open back door was their chosen exit strategy. It leads to an alleyway out of sight from the main street. It avoids the front-facing cameras of the neighboring houses. This confirms extensive pre-surveillance. They mapped the blind spots. They understood the geography of the neighborhood perfectly. An amateur makes a mistake in the dark. An amateur knocks over a lamp or leaves a muddy footprint. These individuals left a void. They left an absence of evidence. And in a forensic investigation, an absence of evidence is a very specific type of evidence. It proves extreme competence. The local authorities stare at the untouched living room. The reality begins to set in. They are not hunting a random thug. They are hunting a ghost. The clean house is terrifying, but the digital footprint is far worse. Investigators turn their attention to the electronic security measures. They pull the data from the front door camera system. The footage provides the first glimpse of the nightmare. The timestamp reads 1:47 in the morning. The video shows a figure approaching the lens. The suspect is male. He stands approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall. He wears a dark mask obscuring his entire face. He carries a 25-liter black tactical backpack. He moves with practiced fluidity. He does not hesitate. He reaches up and disables the camera immediately. The screen goes black. The physical evidence shows a ghost, but the digital evidence shows a predator. This masked man knows exactly where the lens is located. He knows the precise angle to approach without triggering the early warning motion sensors. He understands the hardware. Disabling a modern security camera without triggering an alert requires technical knowledge. It requires knowing the specific weak points of that brand. The masked man possesses this knowledge. The footage cuts off at exactly 1:47. The house goes blind, the perimeter is breached. But the most chilling discovery is yet to come. It involves a piece of technology far more personal than a doorbell camera. Nancy Guthrie relies on a medical device. She has a digital pacemaker implanted in her chest. This device monitors her cardiac rhythm continuously. It transmits health data to a proprietary medical application on her phone. This is standard protocol for modern cardiac care. It allows doctors to track her heart rate remotely. The investigators pull the logs from this medical application. They look for the exact moment the heart rate elevated. They look for the spike in adrenaline that accompanies an abduction. They expect to see the data reflect the violent struggle on the porch. Instead, they find a technological impossibility. The application records normal cardiac activity for 43 minutes after the camera goes dark. The data flows steadily. Then the timeline hits 2:30 in the morning. The pacemaker stops transmitting entirely. The signal drops to 0. The connection is severed. The medical device does not register a cardiac arrest. It does not show a failing heart. It simply vanishes from the network. The digital link is broken. This is the detail that elevates this case from a kidnapping to a highly sophisticated operation. Disabling a home Wi-Fi network is one thing. Severing the encrypted Bluetooth connection of a subcutaneous medical device is something entirely different. It requires specialized knowledge of medical telemetry. It requires knowing the exact frequency the pacemaker uses to communicate. A random home invader does not possess this capability. A standard kidnapper does not care about a pacemaker signal. The masked man cared. He knew the device could potentially track her location. He knew the application could alert medical professionals to a sudden spike in heart rate. He neutralized the threat before it could compromise the mission. He silenced the security camera first. He silenced the medical telemetry second. He blinded the house and then he blinded the doctors. How does an anonymous attacker know the specific communication protocols of an 84-year-old's cardiac implant? The answer points to a terrifying level of target research. Hit subscribe right now because the digital forensics in this case are breaking new ground every single day, and we are tracking every single anomaly. We are dissecting how a medical lifeline was turned into a vulnerability. The authorities pull the technical manuals for the specific pacemaker model. They consult with the manufacturer. The engineering team confirms the device uses a proprietary low-energy Bluetooth signal. This signal is designed to connect exclusively to the paired mobile phone. The phone then transmits the encrypted health data via the home Wi-Fi network to the hospital servers. Severing this connection requires intercepting the signal directly. It requires overwhelming the local frequency to force a disconnection. The masked man did not just carry a tactical backpack. He likely carried a specialized electronic countermeasures device inside that backpack. He carried a tool designed to isolate digital signals. This is not consumer-grade hardware purchased online. This is restricted technology. The realization sends a shockwave through the investigation team. They are dealing with an adversary who treats a residential neighborhood like a hostile combat zone. The physical description of the suspect offers very little help. The attacker deliberately chose an outfit devoid of any identifying logos or unique patterns. The clothing is designed to blend into the shadows. The mask covers the entire facial structure. It hides the skin tone. It hides any identifying scars or tattoos. The physical ghost matches the digital ghost perfectly. The investigators watch the 147 camera footage over and over again. They analyze the gait, they analyze the posture, they look for a limp or a unique movement pattern. The movement is smooth and deliberate. The arm reaches up to the lens with precise calibration. The hand wears a dark tactical glove. The fingers disable the camera feed in less than 2 seconds. The speed indicates rehearsal. The attacker practiced this exact motion on a similar camera model before arriving at the property. The preparation is staggering. The execution is flawless. The result is total darkness. The police are forced to admit a terrifying truth. They're completely blind. They have no fingerprints. They have no DNA from the suspect. They have no digital telemetry after 2:30 in the morning. They have a bloody porch and an open back door. The evidence is not just missing. It was systematically eradicated. The attacker built a digital cage around the 84-year-old woman and then he simply made her vanish. The missing pacemaker signal is the loudest piece of evidence in the entire case. It screams that this is a professional extraction. It screams that the victim is in the hands of an organization with extreme capabilities. The question is no longer how they took her. The question is what kind of technology they used to keep her hidden. The authorities are staring at the severed digital connection. They realize the physical abduction is only half the story. The attacker manipulated the digital environment with the same precision he used in the physical world. He controlled the flow of information. He ensured no alarms triggered at the monitoring center. He ensured no alerts reached the family. The silence of the pacemaker at 2:30 is not a malfunction. It is a deliberate tactical maneuver. It is a digital assassination of her safety net. The masked man erased her physical presence from the house. He erased her digital presence from the network. The local police are holding a severed connection and an empty room. The silence is deafening. The technical sophistication required to execute this double blinding is staggering. It is the signature of a highly specialized team. It leaves the investigators with a terrifying realization. They are not chasing someone who wants money. They are chasing someone who wants total control. They are chasing a phantom who can turn off a heartbeat monitor from the shadows. The timeline is established. The house went blind at 1:47. The heart went dark at 2:30. The 43 minutes in between hold the darkest secrets of this entire investigation. The investigators thought they had a catastrophic mistake to exploit. They thought the phantom finally dropped his mask. A single dark glove rests in the grass near the edge of the property line. The forensic technicians treat it like a holy grail. They secure the perimeter around this tiny piece of fabric. They swab the interior lining for skin cells. They run the genetic profile through the federal database. The system returns a massive hit. They have a name. They have a location. The tactical teams mobilize immediately. They kick down the door of a suspect. But the man sitting inside the interrogation room makes absolutely no sense. He is a local restaurant worker. He possesses zero tactical training. He has an airtight alibi verified by multiple cameras and witnesses. He lost that glove 3 miles away on a completely different day. The realization hits the lead detective like a physical blow. The glove is not a mistake. The glove is a weapon. The masked man did not drop it in a panic during the extraction. He placed it there deliberately. He gathered discarded biological material from a random citizen. He transported that material to the crime scene. He planted it at the edge of the perimeter to act as a forensic lightning rod. He wanted the police to find it. He wanted them to waste 48 hours chasing a ghost down a dead-end street. This tactic reveals a terrifying understanding of modern law enforcement procedures. Most criminals try to clean a crime scene. They try to bleach the floors and wipe the doorknobs. But wiping a surface leaves chemical traces. It tells the police exactly where you touched. This attacker used a countermeasure far more advanced than bleach. He used misdirection. He fed the investigative machine a poisoned apple. The local department exhausted massive resources tracking down a frightened cook while the real perpetrator gained miles of distance. The biological evidence is entirely compromised. The physical trail evaporates completely. The detectives return to the house. They stare at the immaculate living room and the open back door. They have nothing. The DNA led to a wall. The camera feed led to a dead end. The pacemaker data led to a void. The physical investigation stalls out completely. The pressure from the national media begins to suffocate the local authorities. The public demands answers. The family demands action. The police chiefs stand at podiums and offer empty promises. But behind closed doors, the reality is bleak. They are fighting an adversary who anticipates their every move. They are playing chess against a supercomputer. The attacker understands the forensic timeline. He knows exactly how long a DNA test takes. He knows how to manipulate the investigative priority list. Planting false evidence requires immense psychological distance from the crime. It requires cold calculation in the middle of a high-stakes abduction. He carried an 84-year-old woman out of her home and still possessed the presence of mind to stage a secondary crime scene. The level of detachment is chilling. It confirms the theory that this is a professional operation. This is not a crime of passion. This is a contracted assignment. The physical clues are designed to burn time. Time is the most critical resource in a missing persons case. The survival rate drops exponentially after the first 48 hours. The masked man stole those 48 hours using a piece of discarded fabric. The investigators are back at square one. They must pivot away from the physical ground search. They must look toward the motive. They must figure out the why before they can ever hope to find the who. The motive seems obvious to the general public. Savannah Guthrie is a high-profile media personality. She anchors a major morning television broadcast. She represents immense wealth and corporate backing. The kidnapping of her mother looks like a textbook extortion plot. The media narrative solidifies around this theory. And then a demand finally materializes. A digital message surfaces on the internet. It claims responsibility for the abduction. It demands exactly 1 Bitcoin for the safe return of Nancy. The tabloid websites publish the demand immediately. The internet erupts with speculation. The ransom note fits the public expectation perfectly, but the federal agents analyzing the text see massive red flags. The language is sloppy. The details contradict the established facts of the extraction. The ransom note claims a violent struggle occurred inside the bedroom. The police know the interior of the house is perfectly clean. The digital footprint of the message originates from an easily traceable proxy server. The masked man executed a military-grade blackout of a digital pacemaker. He bypassed physical security with zero effort. He planted false genetic material to derail the forensic teams. That type of predator does not send a clumsy, unencrypted ransom note demanding a relatively small sum of cryptocurrency. The 1 Bitcoin demand makes zero logical sense. The operational costs of the abduction likely exceed the value of the requested ransom. The specialized jamming equipment alone costs thousands of dollars. The pre-surveillance requires immense time and resources. You do not spend $50,000 to steal $60,000. The economics of the crime are entirely backward. The federal behavioral analysts begin to draft a much darker theory. They suggest the extortion note is another piece of planted evidence. It is a digital glove thrown into the digital grass. The true motive might not be financial gain. The true motive might be psychological devastation. A kidnapping without a viable ransom demand is an act of terror. It is designed to inflict maximum pain on the surviving family members. The attacker targeted the mother of a woman who appears on national television every single morning. He wants the world to watch the family suffer. He wants to demonstrate absolute power. Taking a vulnerable 84-year-old woman from a heavily secured residence sends a specific message. It says no one is safe. It says wealth and status cannot protect you from the shadows. This theory shifts the entire paradigm of the investigation. If the attacker does not want money, then negotiations are impossible. You cannot buy back a hostage from someone who only wants to inflict suffering. The authorities are forced to evaluate the case through the lens of a revenge plot. They dig into the past broadcasts. They search for anyone who might harbor a catastrophic grudge. But the extreme sophistication of the breach remains the dominant puzzle piece. A disgruntled viewer does not possess black operations capabilities. A stalker does not know how to sever a localized Bluetooth medical signal at 2:30 in the morning. The execution requires a team or a highly specialized contractor. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications immediately. We are about to uncover the most terrifying piece of evidence in this entire file. Because if this was not about the ransom and the attacker was a professional ghost, we have to ask the final question. What specific tool did they use to instantly blind a smart home and silence a heartbeat? The answer is hiding in plain sight. The local detectives hit a solid wall of planted evidence as the physical trail goes completely cold. The national media continues to broadcast the fabricated extortion narrative without questioning the contradictory details. But on March 5th, the Federal Bureau of Investigation takes over the operation quietly. They do not hold a press conference in front of the police station. They do not issue a public statement to the news networks. Instead, they send plainclothes agents back into the affluent neighborhood where the extraction occurred. They bypass the crime scene entirely. They start knocking on the doors of the surrounding houses one by one. They ask the residents a highly specific question that seems completely disconnected from a standard kidnapping. They do not ask if anyone saw a suspicious vehicle idling on the street. They do not ask if anyone heard breaking glass or a struggle. They ask if anyone experienced a sudden drop in their Wi-Fi connection on the night of January 31st. This is the crucial detail the authorities are desperately hiding from the public eye. The agents want to know the exact minute the localized networks failed. They want to know if smart televisions buffered and stopped. They want to know if exterior security feeds flickered and disconnected. They are mapping the exact radius of a digital blackout. When you connect the timeline, this seemingly random question becomes the most terrifying revelation of the entire investigation. At 1:47 in the morning, the front door camera went completely dark. At 2:30 in the morning, the encrypted Bluetooth signal of a subcutaneous pacemaker dropped to zero. The masked man did not physically cut the telecommunication wires outside the house. Cutting physical wires leaves forensic evidence and triggers immediate tamper alarms at the utility company grid. He used a weapon that leaves no physical trace behind. He deployed a military-grade signal jammer. A signal jammer operates by flooding a specific radio frequency with raw electronic noise. It overpowers the legitimate signals in the immediate area with overwhelming static. It screams over the digital conversation between the security camera and the internal router. It screams over the vital connection between the medical implant and the mobile phone network. Possessing this type of hardware is a severe federal crime in the United States. Purchasing one requires deep access to the dark web or international black market arms dealers. Operating one effectively without drawing the immediate attention of the Federal Communications Commission requires extreme technical proficiency. The masked man walked into the neighborhood carrying a 25-liter tactical backpack. That backpack did not contain standard burglary tools like duct tape and zip ties. It contained a portable electronic warfare device. He activated the jammer before he ever stepped onto the property line. He created an invisible bubble of absolute silence around the residence. The camera died because it could not talk to the network. The pacemaker vanished because the Bluetooth frequency was suffocated by the jamming signal. This changes the entire profile of the adversary. We are no longer discussing a standard criminal enterprise or a random home invader. We are looking at a highly financed black operations team. We are looking at a team capable of turning a modern smart home into an isolated digital tomb in less than 2 seconds. The implications are staggering. It means the pristine living room was not just a result of physical discipline and restraint, it was the result of total environmental control. The attacker knew he had unlimited time inside that house because the house could not call for help. He neutralized the victim and the infrastructure simultaneously. He blinded the entire neighborhood to ensure his extraction route remained completely secure from digital surveillance. The federal agents mapping the internet outages are not looking for a kidnapper anymore. They are looking for the blast radius of a tactical weapon. They are trying to determine the exact wattage of the jammer based on how far the signal disruption traveled down the street. This level of threat mitigation completely shatters the ransom theory. You do not deploy electronic warfare hardware against an 84-year-old civilian to collect a single unit of cryptocurrency. You deploy it to ensure absolute zero interference during a highly targeted removal. The precision is terrifying. The silence is weaponized. Hit the like button and share this analysis right now because the mainstream media is completely missing the technological reality of this crime. The public needs to understand exactly how vulnerable our digital lifelines truly are against a prepared adversary. The Federal Bureau knows they are dealing with a phantom. This realization paralyzes the investigative momentum entirely. You cannot interrogate a radio wave. You cannot dust a dropped network connection for fingerprints or biological markers. The technological superiority of the attacker forces the authorities into a purely reactive posture. They are waiting for a mistake that a professional of this caliber simply does not make. This brings us to the agonizing reality of where this investigation currently stands. Today marks day 70 since the garage door closed and Nancy Guthrie vanished into the digital static. There is no body located. There are no credible suspects sitting in custody. The task forces remain officially active, but the daily briefings are growing shorter. The command centers are slowly reducing their active personnel staff. The cruel mathematics of time are working against the investigators every single minute. Every passing hour degrades the available technical data. Every passing day allows the perpetrators to distance themselves further from the extraction zone. The local police department has effectively admitted defeat by handing the technical analysis over to federal cyber units. The federal units are operating under a total information blackout. They refuse to confirm the existence of the signal jammer to the press corps. They refuse to discuss the severed pacemaker telemetry in any official capacity. This silence is designed to protect the integrity of the active investigation, but it creates an unbearable vacuum of answers for the family. The authorities are clinging to a single desperate strategy right now. They are waiting for the attacker to commit a completely unrelated crime. Criminals who possess this level of extreme tactical proficiency do not retire after one successful operation. They are career operators. They take lucrative contracts. They execute complex missions. The federal behavioral analysts believe the only way to catch this phantom is to catch him working another job. They are monitoring the dark web continuously for chatter about specialized jamming equipment. They are watching for anomalies in high-value home invasions across the country. They are waiting for a masked man to drop a real forensic clue instead of a planted one. Until that happens, the case remains suspended in a terrifying state of limbo. The physical search grids yielded absolutely nothing. The tracking dogs lost the scent at the very edge of the street. The digital forensics mapped a perfect blackout. We know the exact methodology of the initial breach. We know how the cameras died. We know how the medical device was silenced. We know the extreme capabilities of the adversary, but we remain completely blind to the identity of the architect. We still do not know who ordered the extraction. We do not know where they transported the victim after they slipped through the digital net. The 84-year-old mother of a national television host was erased from existence using battlefield technology in the middle of an affluent suburb. The absence of a resolution is a psychological weapon in itself. It leaves the family trapped in an endless cycle of ambiguous loss. It leaves the public wondering if their own sophisticated security systems are merely illusions of safety. The investigation has not gone cold. It has simply gone underground. The federal agents are still hunting the ghost. They are still trying to crack the complex encryption on the planted ransom notes just in case a sliver of real data slipped through the cracks. They are still interviewing distant associates and auditing massive financial records, but the immediate breathless urgency of the first 48 hours has evaporated completely. It has been replaced by a grim and methodical waiting game. The phantom who orchestrated this blackout is still out there. He possesses the tools to isolate any target he chooses. He possesses the discipline to leave a crime scene immaculate. He walks through the digital world without leaving a footprint. What this extraction teaches us about targeted digital vulnerabilities should terrify every homeowner. We live under a massive illusion of modern safety. We trust invisible signals to protect our physical lives. We wire our front doors with high-definition security lenses. We connect our vital medical telemetry to commercial cloud servers. We build smart fortresses around our families using standard commercial routers. But this exact reliance creates a fatal architectural flaw. A fortress built entirely on wireless networks is merely a house of cards. It is waiting for the right adversarial frequency to collapse. When an attacker deploys an electronic countermeasure, your expensive surveillance system becomes a liability. The lenses do not just fail to record the masked intruder. They fail to alert you that an intrusion is actively happening. The system registers a loss of connection rather than a breach of perimeter security. This vital technical distinction buys the attacker precious minutes of complete silence. The local police dispatch receives zero automated distress signals from the property. The remote monitoring center assumes a simple neighborhood power fluctuation has occurred. True security against a professional threat requires physical redundancies. It requires hardwired data lines buried deep inside the walls. It requires local storage drives that remain completely immune to radio interference. An analog steel deadbolt cannot be hacked from the dark sidewalk. A closed-circuit camera system connected by physical cables cannot be blinded by a portable transmitter. The masked man exploited our collective modern obsession with wireless convenience. He understood that He turned the convenience of a connected smart home into a silent digital trap. We must audit our personal security perimeters immediately. We must identify the single points of wireless failure in our own networks. If your entire home alarm system relies on a standard broadband router, you are completely exposed. Digital safety is a comforting mirage in an era of easily accessible electronic warfare. The family of the victim is paying the ultimate agonizing price for that precise lesson right now. 70 days ago, a heavy garage door closed quietly on a dark suburban street. That mundane, mechanical action marked the final, confirmed moment of safety for an 84-year-old woman. The ensuing 10 weeks delivered nothing but planted biological evidence and terrifying technological revelations. We navigated past the bloody concrete on the front porch. We analyzed the pristine condition of the untouched living room. We exposed the surgical digital strike that blinded a house and silenced a human heartbeat. Yet the central agonizing horror of this ongoing nightmare remains completely intact. The core question demands an answer that nobody can currently provide. Why deploy such overwhelming military-grade covert force against a vulnerable civilian target? We are absolutely committed to tracking every single development in this unprecedented case. Make sure you are subscribed right now so you never miss a critical investigative update. We will dissect the Federal Cyber Division reports the absolute second they leak to the public. We will trace the movements of this phantom until the tactical mask finally slips. The federal authorities are waiting in the dark for a microscopic operational error. We are watching the authorities. The investigation is a high-stakes waiting game against a ticking clock. Because somewhere out there, a localized network is still compromised. A highly coordinated extraction team is holding a prominent hostage. And the severed Bluetooth connection of that medical pacemaker is still desperately searching for a signal. You are watching Evidence with John.